Hello, welcome to the next part of the video in the series What Do I Do With This Hook? Looking at how to crochet for beginners. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to make a US half double crochet stitch into a foundation chain. That's a US half double crochet stitch, it's a UK half treble crochet stitch. Remember, it's the same stitch, it just uses different names depending on which set of terminology you're using. We're going to do this right-handed, crocheting right-handed, using a traditional crochet hold like that for your yarn. Now, the foundation chain is here. I've already made the foundation chain. When we're doing a half double crochet row, we start working into the third chain from the hook. So we're going to skip the very first loop on the hook because the first loop on the hook never counts as a stitch. So we ignore this one completely. And then we're looking for the first two chains immediately after the hook. So there's one just here, and you can see it by the loop on the side. There's one. There's number two just here. So we're going to skip both of these two, and we're going to start working into number three, which is just here. To make the half double crochet stitch, we're going to start off with a yarn over. So bring the hook round and underneath the yarn, exactly the same as you would if you were about to make a chain. And then we're going to insert the very tip of the hook up here, not this end here, the actual hook part, but the very, very top of the hook. That's going to go into the chain that we've identified just down here. I always say push it back towards your finger, like you're stabbing yourself in the finger there. So you push it back in towards your finger, and you always want to come into the chain from the front and go down towards the back. Don't come in from the back and come upwards, otherwise you'll end up with a twisted stitch. So we come in from the front into that chain and pick up just one loop on the top of the hook just there. Now we do another yarn over, so you come round underneath, grab the yarn, and we're going to slide it through just this very first loop on the hook, like so. And then you'll find we've got 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook. Now, to finish the stitch off, we're going to do another yarn over, and we're going to pull through all 3 of these loops. Sometimes these loops can be a little bit tight. So to make this stitch a little bit easier, move your pinch, where you're pinching your crochet, to right underneath this very first loop on the hook here. So you're pinching right under there, and just pull ever so slightly, and you see how it's made the loops on the hook a little bit bigger? That makes it much easier to finish the stitch off. So then we do another yarn over, and we're going to slide back through all 3 loops on the hook, like so. You can do them 1 loop at a time, or you can do them all 3 loops at once. It's entirely up to you. And that is our first half double crochet stitch. Let's do another one. When you're carrying on working down the rest of the foundation chain, you don't need to skip any more stitches unless the pattern asks you to. It's only at the very beginning of the row that you need to skip any of the chains. So we do a yarn over, insert the tip of the hook into the next chain along. Now, the chain that you've just worked into has gone really large like that, so you end up with a larger hole. That's how you know you've been into that one. We're looking for the next one along. So you find that larger hole, come down, find the next bump, which is just here. And this is our next chain. So you go in, yarn over, and come back through just this very, very first loop, like so. Move the pinch to underneath that front loop and give it a pull down. Then yarn over, and pull back through all 3 loops. I'm going to show it to you 1 at a time this time, so you can go 1, 2, 3 if you find it easier. Now, sometimes what happens is you go to make the stitch, and when you get to the point of pulling through all 3 loops, sometimes they don't pull through properly, and you end up with an extra loop left on your hook at the end of the stitch. So you end up with 2 loops on the hook like that instead of just having 1. Now that happens because the position of the hook means that instead of going through those 3 loops, you're actually picking the middle one up and dragging it along with you instead of going through it. So you go in, yarn over, come back through. You've got the 3 loops on the hook like that. If your hook is pointed down towards the floor, towards the lowest, longest part of the loop, it should pull through really easily. You see it slides through all 3. If you turn your hook ever so slightly and it's looking at you, see the angle of the hook here? So instead of being down where you can see the full profile, you're seeing the front face of the hook. What then happens is that you can go through the first loop, but very often, can you see it just catches on that second loop and then goes through the third loop. And that leaves you with the 2 loops on your hook. If that happens, take your hook out, gently pull it all out and start that stitch again. If it happens repeatedly, it's worth actually just going through those 3 loops one at a time. So you take one off and then the next one and then the next one to be sure that you've got all 3. You just keep working down, and when we get to the end of the row, I'll show you with the next video how to turn around and go back the other way. Thank you for watching.